Good morning from New York. Very happy that you're joining us this morning. We're so privileged to have Joel Kaplan, Chief Global Affairs Officer at Meta. Joel, you have also a very distinguished career in public offices in the U.S. Before. I think you also were with the Marine Corps for 4 years, and you were Deputy Chief of Staff of George W. Bush, and also were there when you established the Homeland Security. And then you joined Meta later on, and using all your knowledge and competence to develop a very exciting company. And I think you're doubling down on artificial intelligence and all what that can bring now, moving the world forward.
Yeah, well, first of all, Borge, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you here during UN General Assembly Week. Yeah, it's an extraordinary time to be at Meta. I've been there, as you say, I've been there for a number of years, and I can't remember a time when the pace of technological advancement was happening so quickly, and where the technology development in artificial intelligence, in our case, the effort to build personal superintelligence, interacts so closely with the policy objectives and some of the geopolitical discussions and debates that are happening around the world. So it's a really exciting time to be there, and I think we're going to be doing some pretty cool things.
I saw some of your developments just before the interview with the glasses and all this is very impressive. But you mentioned the super intelligence. When do you think we can define it as super intelligence? We're not there yet?
No, we're not there yet. And as our CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, has talked about, over the last period, we began to see some early indications of the AI improving itself. Which is what gives us sort of the confidence that to make the investments to try to bring the future of personal superintelligence into existence in the next few years. And nobody knows exactly how many years that's going to be, but we're all in on it. We're making just massive infrastructure investments into the compute that'll be necessary. We're in the middle of building a 1 gigawatt data center in Ohio that we call Prometheus. That'll come online soon. Another one in Louisiana that's will go up to 5 gigawatts that we call Hyperion. And that one, just to give you a sense of the physical scale of it, if you were to overlay the physical footprint of that data center on Manhattan, it would cover a significant portion of this island, so where we are today. So it's pretty impressive. Again, we're putting massive investment and resources against it because we think it really is the future of technology, and we want to help bring it to life for people.
And I think we're already seeing that the new technologies, frontier technologies, but specifically Gen AI, is also fueling already the U.S. economy. When we met a year ago, people were saying, oh, is the U.S. economy going to have a hard landing or a soft landing? It seems like it's not landing, at least not yet. And more and more people say that the technology investments and all this is already increasing productivity in the U.S. economy. But if you look at the artificial intelligence and Gen AI, where do you think we will see the biggest benefit from humankind?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that there's still a lot of enthusiasm and investment going on, and you see it across the industry every day. And I think that's a reflection of the confidence that this technological advancement is going to lead to just tremendous productivity gains across the economy. And I think you're going to see that in businesses adopting superintelligence. You're going to see that in science and research and medical advancements. Our goal at Meta is to make sure that these advances are for everyone. And so that's why we're focused on what Mark has called personal superintelligence. And we want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone, that it works for you personally, improving your own productivity, and also improving your ability to create things, to be entertained, and just to have a super intelligence that's with you all of the time, focused on the things that you're focused on, that knows you, that understands what you're interested in, understands the tasks you need performed, and is really there to augment your abilities to complete whatever you're focused on doing.
There's fierce competition between the different large platform companies, but also those that are investing in AI. We saw DeepSeek coming out of China. We know that Microsoft, Google is also doing huge investments. What, in your view, is Meta's edge in this?
Yeah, it's a great question. Those are all terrific companies doing really interesting work. I think Meta's got a couple of advantages. The first is we have a very successful underlying business model across our family of apps, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, WhatsApp, that generates the resources that we can turn around and invest in personal superintelligence. So this year we're going to spend about $72 billion on building the infrastructure for superintelligence. Mark has said recently that over the next through 2028 we're going to spend about $600 billion in the U.S. So we have the advantage of having a successful business model from our family of apps that will allow us to make these really substantial investments in these future technology. Another advantage, I think, is that Meta really focuses on the individual, and people are going to want to access this superintelligence in ways that help them lead more productive and more fruitful lives. And so that's something that we've always been focused on, the personal, the personal and the social. And I think that that's something that's going to be helpful for us, and a little bit different maybe from what the others are focused on. And then I'd say the last thing is we've got about a decade's worth of investment in glasses and wearables, and you had an opportunity to see the most recent
Ray-Ban glasses.
The Meta Ray-Ban display glasses that Mark announced at our big Connect developer conference last week. We think the glasses are going to be the next computing platform. They see what you see, they hear what you hear, they allow you to lift up, and so you're not looking at the phone all day, and engage in the world, engage with people. And we think that's something that's going to be particularly useful as a way to bring AI to individuals in their everyday lives. So I think those are some of the advantages that we bring to the table. But again, it's good to see a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, I think competition also has moved the world forward. So the glasses are not only impressive, they are also quite cool. I think one question that at least people keep asking me is, how big is this Gen AI? Is it a paradigm shift? I think we can easily agree on. But is it like the third or fourth industrial revolution? Is it much bigger than the internet, or is it too early to say?
Our view is I think it's going to be the biggest technological shift, certainly of our lifetimes. I mean, obviously the internet has had incredible transformative implications for society and for economies and for opportunities. I think this will clearly be at least on a par with that. But this is probably going to be the biggest technological shift any of us see in our lifetimes. And that's why you see the governments being as focused on it as they are. The Trump administration has made promoting AI and maintaining our leadership position in the U.S. on AI a top priority of his administration. And I think that's because they recognize that from both an economic and national security perspective, winning the AI race may be the most important thing that we do.
$500 billion invested in AI just this year in the U.S. But there definitely competition here, not only among those big platform companies, but also with China. And we know that the world is more fragmented and polarized than before. How do you maneuver in this terrain, and also with Europe that has a more regulatory approach to AI, at least so far?
Yeah, well, I think the U.S. is leading in AI, but China is a fierce competitor, and they're desperate to catch up, and they're willing to spend an extraordinary amount of resources in order to do that. I think they've said they're going to spend something on the order of $1 trillion to try to catch up in the near term.
Per year or over period of time?
I think that's per year, but I'm not actually sure what time frame they've said that over. But in any event,
it's a lot of money anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. They have they're able to build a lot of power plants and bring a lot of energy online, which is essential to power the massive clusters of compute that are necessary. So they're a fierce competitor, and we saw that earlier this year, or the end of last year, when they released DeepSeek as an open source model. Prior to that, Meta, through our Llama model, was sort of the main big AI company that was providing models for free. We now see that China is doing that, and that's part of their ambition to bring other countries around the world onto their technology and to allow them to set the standards according to their values. And we think that's a real risk, and that sort of small d democratic countries around the world really should be focused on making sure that AI that has Western technologies built in and Western values built in are the ones that are adopted as sort of the global standard. So it's important to get the regulatory environment to promote that innovation in the U.S. and in the EU right. I think we do see some differences in the way that the U.S. administration is approaching that innovation. They're very focused on removing all of the burdens from innovation and clearing them away, whether it's in energy or data, so that the companies can make these investments with confidence and compete with China and with Chinese companies. In Europe, they've taken an approach of regulating first, even before we sort of fully understand what the opportunities and risks are. And we think that's the wrong approach, and it's going to slow down innovation and make it more difficult for Western companies to compete and succeed and win. European companies also feel that way. There have been dozens who've weighed in and on the EU AI Act and suggested that they slow down and take a more deliberate approach, one that's more evidence-based and more focused on the actual risks. But we'll see how that develops. But I think in order for Western values to be embedded in the global standards for AI that get adopted around the world, we're going to need a real public-private partnership that's focused on bringing this innovation to life as quickly as possible.
And we have seen with the Trump administration that the approach to crypto has changed. We see also that there is less regulations related to the Gen AI. But if you compare the situation in the US with the regulatory frameworks in China, what frameworks do the Chinese company face, the DeepSeeks of the world? Is there a laissez-faire, like just no regulations there? And it's just a competition, and they have, of course, access to 1.4 billion people's data. So that's also part of the success. Do you have an overview of that?
Yeah, I think they have some regulations. I think they're focused on some different things. They're focused on limiting some of the expression that is generated and limiting it in ways that are consistent with the Chinese Communist Party's values, which are, I think, antithetical to the ones we embrace at Meta, and I think the other Western companies do. But they are going to make sure that their Chinese companies have access to all of the data that they need, which is a key component. I mean, the four things that you need to build superintelligence and to win in superintelligence are talent, energy, compute power, and data. And the right regulatory environment will ensure access to all of those things. And just the focus that the Chinese government is able to put on it, I think will make sure that those companies have access to those things so that they can be competitive. One thing the Chinese government doesn't have to contend with that we do have in the U.S. it's a challenge is that while the Trump administration has put out an AI action plan that is very focused on innovation, we also have 50 states, and those states are not all equally focused on innovation, and so we've seen this proliferation of state bills intending to regulate AI in ways that are not necessarily consistent with the approach that the federal government is taking. I think there have been 1,100 bills filed in state legislatures in 2025. That's a real problem, one that the Trump administration has focused on. We need to make sure that we have one set of standards that the companies need to operate under, and that's set at the national level where they can strike the right balance between innovation, economic growth, national security, safety more broadly. And we think that's the right place and the right level to regulate, but there's a challenge from the state governments that I think the Chinese will not have to contend with.
And the federal government is questioning the regulations on a state level?
Yeah, I mean, in the AI action plan, the administration made clear that they think that the regulation of AI should take place at the federal level, and that the state laws shouldn't be enacted that can interfere with what is a national imperative, both for our economic and national security going forward. That policy ought to be said, and the Trump administration has recognized that at the federal level.
How is California doing, where you have your headquarters?
California tends to like to regulate.
So you're moving to Texas too, or?
We've got a presence in Texas, but look, we want to be able to work with our home state. We do have a big presence there, and there's lots of great talent in California. If they regulate in the wrong ways, I think there's a real risk to the ability of companies to invest and succeed there. But we'll continue to work with the legislature and continue to work with the governor to try to make sure that they don't do anything that really impedes our ability as a country to innovate and to win this critical battle.
Just coming back to China for a second and DeepSeek. When DeepSeek launched their new language model, there was information out there that they build this for much less than the other language models. Of course, it's open source, but you know that area very well. Was there a real different business model that and things that they did that we, like other companies, need to learn from? And are we then seeing that we can do a lot more now for less already in developing the models?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the general consensus is that some of the reporting that came out about how inexpensively they were able to develop the model was a little inaccurate, and they may have been undercounting some of the early investment that went into it. But there are things that DeepSeek did in their architecture that I think other companies will look at and try to make sure that we're operating as efficiently as possible. But at the end of the day, our view is still that it's going to require pretty massive investments in compute in order to really achieve the superintelligence that we and other companies are trying to achieve.
As you mentioned, and what we have seen is also that the artificial intelligence is accelerating research processes that could have taken decades in medicine, fight against cancer, screening, but we also know in, for example, fusion, nuclear energy, where we thought it was going to take 30 years, and maybe now with the new models we can do this in 10, 15 years. Do you feel that aspects of AI to contribute also to move the world forward is not as much on the agenda, and more the concerns related to the algorithms taking control of humans? Is there something there do you think that, and I think the debate is maybe even different in Europe than in the US?
Yeah, it's a great question. A couple of years ago, in some of the kind of multilateral fora where discussions were taking place, I think there really was a dominant focus on the risks of AI and not enough focus on the opportunities. I think that is changing to some degree, and certainly, as I said, the Trump administration has really embraced it and has made it a top priority of their administration, in part because I think they do recognize the tremendous potential of AI to help with all manner of challenges. I think the scientific ones that you identified, whether it's in terms of health and medicine or energy and climate, I think the opportunities are really almost limitless, but you got to get there, and that requires creating the right environment for it. But I think if you have a focus, at least equally, on the opportunities, I would say more than equally, on the opportunities of AI, you'll be more focused on creating the regulatory environment to promote it and to ensure that the U.S. and our allies are able to win and get there first and deploy those technologies in ways that are beneficial to everyone.
But if you look at AI and superintelligence industry now, you get the feeling that you have to have a lot of capital because it's very expensive to develop these language models, trillions of US dollars. So you're in a hardware phase. And then it's a tendency that the winner takes it all. So you have to have scale, you have to have the investments. But then how fast do you think we will move into also like more software phase where you can put applications on this and you can build companies that can also supply the bigger companies? Because that we saw on the apps that was built on the platforms that were expensive at the beginning. Where do you see this heading, or will we end up with like 2-3 US companies totally dominating this?
Obviously, in terms of building the foundational models, it does take a tremendous amount of capital, as you suggest. And we're fortunate in the U.S. that we have a handful of those companies who are able to do that. But I think many of the benefits are going to come from smaller developers building on top of the technology. It's one of the reasons why we open source Llama, because that makes the foundational models available for free to literally millions of developers around the world who can then use their ingenuity and their talent and their kind of ideas and creativity to build new functions and features and applications on top of it. So I do think in terms of democratizing access to the technology, not just for individuals, but for developers, the work we've done on open source and now others are jumping in on open source, I think is really helpful. We've always partnered with developers. We're opening up the glasses to developers. Our metaverse investments in Horizon, we're opening to other developers. So we really believe in making the technology available for other people to be able to build on top of it, because that's where we're going to really get to see the benefits of the investments that we're making.
I think you're traveling to Europe also in the coming weeks. I guess you will get a lot of questions there on AI safety.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get questions on AI safety. As I said, I think a lot of that discussion has evolved over the last couple of years to focus on sort of like the national security type risks, whether it's chemical or biological or nuclear or something like that, whether AI will add to the ability of bad actors to develop those capabilities. All of the major companies have released what we call frontier AI frameworks. So we've made public how we think about safety, how we think about those risks, the tests we put in place to ensure that our models are not adding incrementally to those kinds of risks. And I think for countries to focus on those things while also promoting innovation is the right balance. So in my conversations with European policymakers, I'll advocate for that perspective. But again, it's one that's been echoed by dozens of leading European companies who, to your point, want to be able to apply AI to their businesses and are worried that the approach that Europe is taking is going to slow that innovation down and make them even less competitive than they are today, which I think a lot of European policymakers and business leaders know is a real problem, especially after the Draghi report from a year or so ago.
And this was an important chapter in the Draghi report. We also had 60 CEOs from the World Economic Forum meeting with Ursula von der Leyen and the different commissioners in July, and this came up. But so you generally also feel that the zeitgeist, the way they look at this in Brussels has changed. That was definitely also my feeling when we were there in July, to look at the glass more half full than half empty. You might find out more when you...
Honestly, I think the jury is still out. Yeah. I know there's a big effort underway in Brussels to look at simplification. They've got an omnibus approach to digital simplification. A lot of those companies that participated in the conversation that you led, I think, have advocated that the AI Act be part of that consideration in the simplification process. I think that would make a lot of sense, but it's going to ultimately be up to European policymakers to decide what's in the best interests of European companies and citizens. We'll continue to make the case that being aligned with the approach that the U.S. is taking is the right balance, and that the U.S. And the EU being aligned and partnering is going to be the best bulwark against the Chinese models and the Chinese government winning this race.
If you look into the crystal ball, what kind of company will Meta be in 5 years, and how much of the growth globally also will come from the new technologies? What we are seeing at the World Economic Forum is that trade used to be the engine of growth for decades. We're seeing that, of course, it plays still a role, especially the digital trade, and trade in services is growing, where the traditional trade is in fact declining in manufactured goods. But we're already seeing that the new technologies are driving the growth. So first, Meta in 5 years, and also how important these new technologies, and especially then superintelligence, will be in driving prosperity.
Yeah, well, for Meta, I think our entire company will be transformed by personal superintelligence, from the way we run the company to how our engineers do their coding work, and then most importantly to the way people experience our products, whether that's in the types of content that they're able to access and engage with, whether that's the advertising business and the tools that we're able to provide advertisers to reach people who will be interested in their products. So everything I think will be affected and be improved at Meta by the advances in superintelligence. I think we'll see some incredible innovations in the glasses. We think that's the form factor of the future and the next computing technology. It just makes sense that it allows people, and you saw it with our Meta Ray-Ban display glasses and the neural wristband, which is how you control the glasses and is an incredible technological innovation. I think we're going to see more advances, different form factors for different use cases. We've got this great partnership with EssilorLuxottica, who makes Ray-Bans and Oakleys, and one of the things we've learned is that for people to put something on their face, a computing technology on their face, they're going to want to make sure it looks good, and it's in a style that they're comfortable in, and that they think is right for them.
On that.
Well, Apple's great at design. Look, part of it is we're learning. We're learning from our partnership with one of the, not one of the premier sort of luxury sunglass company in the world. So I think we've learned a lot, and the technology, the advances are incredible. I think we'll continue to see more of that, and over the next number of years, I think we're going to see more and more people adopting, accessing AI through these wearables, glasses technology in ways that we're only now beginning to imagine.
Great, and it's such a pleasure to have you here, Joel, and Meta is also a privilege to have you heading all this work. And also, it's so good to have a conversation that is optimistic. There is too much pessimism in the world, so I think there can be a lot of job creation, a lot of growth in this area in the years to come. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining. Thank you.